So now in this case, let us look at our main role players. What did Malcolm X actually say that actually encouraged African Americans to actually fight using violence? Remember, I said Malcolm X was the main role player. Under civil rights movement, we know more about Martin Luther King Jr. Now here we learn more about Malcolm X. What did Malcolm X actually do? What role did he play? Now I want you to know this, historians, to say when you are discussing the role of Malcolm X, you are not going to be discussing his social life. So you are not going to get points for discussing how many children did he have, who he was married to. So in this case, it's all about the role that he played in Black Power movement and nothing else. So do not even bother to talk about his social life. The focus is on his role in the Black Power movement. It says Malcolm X is regarded as the intellectual father of Black Power. So it means he played a very important role in promoting the philosophy of Black Power among African Americans. Now it says Malcolm X preached self-respect. He actually encouraged Black people to do what? To respect themselves rather. Self-sufficiency, to say do things on your own without relying on white people. So that is known as self-sufficiency. He also advocated self-defense. He actually encouraged African Americans to defend themselves against police brutality. So now he encouraged them, because remember, when you go back to the problems, one of them is they were experiencing police brutality. So Malcolm X actually encouraged self-defense against white oppression and police brutality. He encouraged his followers to secure their rights by any means necessary. So he actually said, fight against police brutality, even if it means using violence, as long as that violence is justified, as long as that violence will help you to get equality and end police brutality, you can do it. Hence, this poem says, by any means necessary. So it says he was in favor of Black separatism instead of integration. Separatism, I'm sure you remember Black people having to work and live apart from white people. Now, when we talk about integration, it's actually allowing Black people and white people to work together. So it says here, he was in favor of Black separatism, not integration. He didn't believe that Black people and white people should collaborate or work together. He wanted Black people to separate themselves and work together in fighting against segregation and discrimination. After his pilgrimage or a trip to Mecca, Malcolm X changed his ideas about integration. Remember, at first, he was against integration, but now after the trip to Mecca, he changed. Now he started to believe in integration. Now, after meeting other Muslims of other nationalities who actually challenged his belief about race and integration. So when he came back, he changed now. Remember, at first he believed in separatism. Now he changed. Now it says, after his pilgrimage, Malcolm X changed his ideas about integration, as he had seen Muslims of all races living and praying together peacefully. Now, this actually made him to change his mind. So after the trip, he was no longer against integration. After seeing Muslims praying together and also playing and living together peacefully. So it says, when he returned to America, he joined the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, which is under CRM. So now it means he moved from Black Power movement now. He now joined CRM through an organization called the SNCC, which is Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. Now remember, CRM is promoting non-violence. So now in this case, it means he moved away from the ideas of using violence to end segregation. Now he's joining CRM, which is Civil Rights Movement, which actually promotes what? violence. So in this case, it says, when he returned to America, he joined the SNCC in the non-violent fight against segregation and racism. He was, however, assassinated, or he died in 1965. So the life of one of the most influential leaders of BPM had been cut short, but he is still remembered. How do we remember him? We still remember him for raising self-esteem of African Americans to encourage them to be proud of who they are, and also encouraging them to fight for their rights. So in this case, as much as he died, but we still remember him as one of the leaders who encouraged African Americans to actually change their thinking, to start seeing themselves as superior so that they can be able to stand up and fight for their rights. Now, another role player, before we go to the next role player, this is one of the quotes from Malcolm X before he joined civil rights movement. Let us look at the first one. He says, be peaceful, be cautious, obey the law, respect everyone. But, can you see the but there? But if someone puts his hand on you, send him to the cemetery. So he's basically saying, do not provoke people. But if you are being provoked, fight back. So in this case, you need to understand that as much as Black Power movement was saying African Americans should use violence, it did not say they should go around attacking people. It actually said if they are being provoked, if they are being attacked, they should also fight back. This is due to them experiencing police brutality. Now let's look at the second code. Concerning nonviolence, it is criminal to teach a man not to defend himself. Now again, it goes back to self-defense. Concerning nonviolence, it is a criminal to teach a man not to defend himself when he is the constant victim of brutal attacks. Again, he's actually encouraging African Americans to defend themselves. He's not saying go around and attack people. Now we have Stokely Carmichael as also one of the role players. In this case, again, we don't want his social life. You only discuss the role that he played in the Black Power movement. So what you need to understand is that Stokely Carmichael was first a member of civil rights movement, but he left civil rights movement. Remember, civil rights movement was promoting non-violence, but he realized that non-violence is not working. African Americans were still being attacked. So he ended up joining Black Power movement. So with Malcolm X, he was first a member of BPM. Then he changed to CRM. So now it's a different story. Stokely Carmichael was a member of civil rights movement. And then now he moved to Black Power movement. Why? He actually realized that non-violence was not working for African Americans as they were still being attacked by white people. So he says Stokely Carmichael was a member of CRM. I'm sure you know what CRM is, but he became disillusioned with the slow pace of change and the consistent police brutality against blacks. So as I have indicated, I think I explained that he joined Black Power movement after one of the civil rights activists was attacked by the police. Who is that civil rights activist? James Meredith. So James Meredith was one of the civil rights activists, and he was brutally attacked by the police. So after that incident, Stokely Carmichael changed. He now decided to move away from non-violence and opted for violence. He believed that the strategy of non-violence had failed. Why? Because of the ongoing violence that was used by white Americans on African Americans. He then embraced the teachings of Black Power. And he also advocated for what? For exclusion of white liberals in the Black Power movement. Again, this is separatism. Again, he's actually saying Black people should fight on their own. Even if there are white people who are against segregation, they should not be allowed to join Black Power movement, which is separatism. So in this case, again, the ideas of Black Power are being implemented. Now, Carmichael later joined the Black Panther Party, of which we will discuss, and promoted Black Power movement as a leader, not only as a leader, but as a speaker and a writer as well. And he even wrote a book called Black Power, The Politics of Liberation. Now, in his book, Carmichael is defining Black Power as a call for Black people to do what? To unite. Remember the definition that says Black people should unite. And again, he's also calling for Black people to recognize their what? Their heritage. They should now start being proud of who they are. Build a sense of community programs and lead their own organizations. So now he's coming up with a different or a new definition of Black Power. He's saying it's a call for Black people to unite, recognize their heritage, build a sense of community, start having their own community programs without including white people, and lead their own organization. He also popularized the famous slogan, Black is beautiful. And he rejected white ideas on style and fashion. So he actually encouraged Black people to stick to their own culture. So hence it says he rejected white ideas on style and fashion. He promoted African pride and identity, where African Americans were now starting to wear African clothes, growing their afro as African hairstyles, and they also started eating African food as well, which was now an indication that they were proud of who they are. So all this was done by Stokely Carmichael, was actually promoted by Stokely Carmichael. So in this case, I'm sure you can see that he played a very important role. Now, the formation of the Black Panther Party as per our examination guideline. Now, the Black Panther Party, I think I touched on this earlier on to say young people were inspired by the ideas of the Black Power movement. Then they formed the party called the Black Panther Party in 1966, which is BPP in short, BPP. This began again as a militant group. Now, the word militant is coming back with the Black Power movement. This began as a militant group within the Black Power movement. So it means now the BPP was not a separate party, but it was formed within the Black Power movement. It means the members of the Black Power movement decided to form a party called the Black Panther Party, particularly young people such as Bobby Seale and Hugh Newton. They formed the Black Panther Party. It says this began as a militant group within the Black Power movement whose aim was to protect African Americans from what? From police brutality and racism. How did they aim to do that? The Black Panther Party actually instructed African Americans to carry guns to defend themselves. Now, they took advantage of one of the laws that actually said now one can carry a gun as long as it was facing down. So in this case, they actually encouraged African not to use their guns, but to carry them. So in this case, the Black Panther Party encouraged African Americans to carry guns to defend themselves. They were involved in shooting or shootouts with the police in New York and Chicago. Now, again, here we are seeing the militant part. They were using what? Violence, as they were now involved in shootings or shootouts with the police in New York and Chicago in the 1960s and 1970s. And Hugh Newton was convicted for what? Or was arrested for the murder of a policeman. Again, here we are seeing what? The role of Hugh Newton as stipulated in the examination guideline. And we are also seeing the violent part here, the militant part. The ideas of the Black Panther Party frightened many white people. Now, white people became scared. They became worried because of these ideas of the Black Panther Party that encouraged Black people to carry guns to defend themselves. J. Edgar Hoover, the director of the FBI, actually called the BPP or the Black Panther Party the greatest threat to the internal security of the country. The greatest threat to the internal security of the country. So the Black Panther Party were popular in the 1960s as they were involved in defending the rights of both workers and African American communities in the ghettos. So they were actually defending the rights of of African Americans. So now here's a picture of Black Panther Party members, always on their beret, wearing leather jackets, carrying guns, as stipulated by the Black Panther Party to say African Americans should carry guns to defend themselves. Now remember the definition of Stokely Carmichael of the definition of Stokely Carmichael of Black Power. One of them was to encourage them to have their own community programs. So now here again, under the Black Panther Party, Black community programs were established to actually improve the lives or the living conditions of African Americans. It says the Black Panther Party instituted various community programs. These programs were meant to alleviate or to reduce poverty in Black communities. So now remember, learners or historians, when Stokely Carmichael was defining Black Power, he actually also stated that it encouraged African Americans to also have their own community programs. So now these young people or members of the Black Panther Party were actually promoting the ideas. So in this case, they ended up having community programs for African Americans. Now this also again shows us what? Self-reliance. Now African Americans started to be self-reliant. They were now doing things, improving their own living conditions without the help of white people. So in this case, they came up with different or various community programs which were actually meant to reduce poverty in Black communities. So these programs were meant to deal with poverty in Black communities. So now one of the programs under the Black Panther Party is known as the Free Breakfast for Children program that actually gave African Americans children breakfast in the morning so that they can be able to concentrate at school. So in this case, it says it gave free breakfast for children. In this case, it says one of the programs is a free breakfast for children program, which fed thousands of poor and hungry Black children every day. So now in this case, it made sure that before they go to school, they are well fed. But it did not end there. The programs, again, under the Black Panther Party programs, there were also clinics that were only meant for African Americans. So it says clinics were established for adults and children to get free medical care without the help of white people. So here we see self-reliance. A tutoring scheme also was there to help Black learners to succeed at school. So again, self-reliance. Now they are improving their living conditions. They are also improving their education as well without the help of white people. So in this case, again, the BPP also gave African Americans self-defense classes. Why self-defense classes? Remember, they always experienced police brutality. So now these self-defense classes will actually help them to defend themselves against police brutality. So now the BPP also came up with what we call the 10-point program, which is a program that outlined their demands, which is what they wanted to achieve. So it says the BPP drew up what you call the 10-point program, which actually listed the party's economic and social demands and goals, which is what they wanted to achieve at the end. One of them is full employment. Now, this 10-point program stated full employment as one of their goals. Why full employment? Full employment. It's because remember when we're discussing the problems, one of the problems is that most African Americans were unemployed. So the BPP wanted to see African Americans being employed. And they did not end there. They also wanted an end to capitalism that disadvantaged the African American community. Now, with capitalism, there is a huge gap between the poor and the rich. So now they wanted that gap to be closed so that there can be what we call equality, so that the resources of the country can be shared equally. So in this case, hence they wanted the end of capitalism, which we know capitalism, it promotes private ownership. So in this case, people are allowed to start their own businesses, make their own profit, which creates a gap between the haves and the have-nots. So in this case, if capitalism comes to an end, it means everybody will be equal. They wanted decent housing. Remember, some of them lived in the ghettos. So they wanted decent housing. They wanted sound education for African Americans. Remember, when you go back to the problems, one of the problems is that their children actually attended under-resourced schools. So they wanted to see that coming to an end. They also wanted an end to police brutality. Again, when you go back to the problems, one of the problems is them facing police brutality and the release of all African Americans in prison. And also, it says the demands or goals aimed to uplift African American community. So now by achieving this, they were sure that African American communities would actually be uplifted. So now as we proceed, now let us go to the short-term and the long-term gains. Now, gains, not goals, long-term gains, basically achievements. Now, I'm sure you have seen Black Power movement actually achieved a lot. How so? Black people actually had their own community programs through the Black Panther Party. They were also liberated psychologically, where they started seeing themselves as superior. So in this case, they started to have pride in their culture. They started to have pride in their heritage, where we've seen them wearing African clothes, eating African food, keeping afros as their African hairstyles. So in this case, again, that's an achievement. So it says the Black Power movement had both short and long-term gains. Now, as per the ATP, we are not expected to discuss much when it comes to the gains. It specifies to say we should be brief. So in this case, we are going to be brief. So it says it helped Black people to start the process of liberating themselves, which is basically what I say, emotionally and psychologically as well. So now, again, it gave Black people self-confidence, a sense of Black pride, an attitude captured by one of the singers known as James Brown, with the words, "Say it loud, I am Black and I am proud." So again, can you see that the ideas of Black power were also promoted through songs or music as well? They also began to take pride in their culture by doing what? By wearing African clothes, wearing Afro hairstyles, and they also demanded the creation of Black study programs in universities as well. It means now they were now realizing that they also deserve better. They started to demand programs that promoted what? African culture, or demanding Black studies in Black study programs at universities. Now it says the Black Power movement had a real effect on the lives of African Americans. How did we see that? For example, Black Panther Party introduced survival programs for African Americans. Now, your activity is still the same essay question that we started with. So in this case here, you are expected to write an essay, and your essay should be 3 pages long. Now, remember when you write an essay, and I'm sure by now you can be able to take a stance based on what we discussed. So now remember when you write an essay, the first thing that you do is to write an introduction. Now remember, with an introduction, you take a stance. So now you need to actually take a stance based on the question. Do you agree with the statement? And remember, when you take a stance, you don't personalize. You can rather say one may or one could agree if you agree, or you can say one may disagree if you disagree. Second thing that you need to do for your introduction to be contextualized, you give a brief reason. And lastly, the orientation. So these are the three things that you need to do for your introduction to be contextualized. Now, coming to the body, you need to, after the introduction, the body will follow, where now you give us the content. You give us historical evidence. So now, how do you construct the body? Remember, the body is made up of different paragraphs. So now when you write a paragraph, remember to follow the peel method. So in each and every paragraph, when you write a paragraph, you start with a point. Give us a point. Explain the point. You explain. Give evidence and examples. And lastly, you link back to the statement. So now when you write your paragraphs in the body, make sure that you follow the peel method and don't forget to sustain the line of argument. Remember, we are writing an argumentative essay where you don't just give facts. You need to argue from the beginning up until the end. Now, the last part of your essay should be a conclusion, where you are now summing up or summarizing what you have said or discussed rather in the body. Now, in the conclusion, no new information. No new information. You actually summarize what you said in the body in relation to the question and the statement. So here you are basically actually wrapping up. You are reaffirming your stance, and you are actually summarizing what you said in the body or discussed in the body. Even if there is a point, let's say you have forgotten to talk about or to have forgotten to discuss Malcolm X, and you only remember when you write your conclusion, you are not allowed to discuss him at all because you are concluding. You cannot bring in any new information. It means you are not going to be able to discuss that part at all, as you are now wrapping up. I always say when you write an introduction is where you promise your readers what you will talk about in the body. So now, introduction, you promise. You tell them that this is what I'm going to do. And in the body, remember introduction, you are promising. The body, what you do, you keep the promise and tell them. And then conclusion, you tell them what you told them. But this time you are summarizing. So no new information and no other paragraph after the conclusion. The conclusion should be the last paragraph. Now this will be your homework. Your classwork. Your homework will be another essay question again from one of the previous question papers. Now this one is different, but it is also based on what we discussed. It says the Black Power movement adopted a militant approach. Remember the militant part? I think we discussed that. To challenge discrimination against the African Americans in the 1960s. Do you agree with the statement? Now again, you follow the same method, introduction, body, made up of different paragraphs, and a conclusion as your last paragraph where you are reaffirming your stance. So most of the time, there should be a link between your introduction and your conclusion. So now this will be your homework again. Now again, the question, do you agree with the statement? Don't forget, do not personalize your essay. In summary, this is what we have discussed. We have discussed the definition of Black Power, which is a philosophy that instilled Black pride, Black confidence, and self-reliance as well. We have discussed separatism, which is the belief that Black people should live and work apart from white people. We have discussed the role of Malcolm X, his role in the Black Power movement. We have also discussed the role of Stokely Carmichael, and we have also discussed the role of Hugh Newton as well. We have also discussed the formation of the Black Panther Party, which was just a party that was formed within the Black Power movement, not separately. It is still part of the Black Power movement. It means members of the Black Power movement decided to form a party called the Black Panther Party, which came up with different community programs that were meant to uplift the conditions of African Americans. That these programs were also meant to alleviate or reduce poverty in African American communities. And now this Black Panther Party also came up with a 10-point program listing their demands, what they wanted to achieve. One of them being high employment, end of capitalism, sound education, decent housing or proper houses for African Americans. We have also discussed the achievements, which is the short-term and the long-term gains of Black Power movement. So let us have a look at what we will be discussing in our next lesson. We will be revising paper 1 again, but this time again, it's an essay question, question 4 of paper 1. Now, which topic we will be focusing on? The extension of the Cold War, and the subtopic or the question focus will be on Vietnam. As I have indicated, this will be an essay topic, or this is an essay topic rather. Thank you for watching, historians. See you next time. Bye.